If this works, can you check to make sure we're...
Yes, I'm hopping over there real quick.
Yeah. I need to open another window.
I know I need to put this on the big TV in front of me.
Just got something. If this works, can you check to make sure we're...
Yes, I'm hopping over there real quick.
Yeah. I need to open another window.
I see us.
We're askew.
Askew. The video is in a different shape.
And now it just stopped. That's a new problem.
I did do it.
Interesting. Are there chatters? I can't see anything.
I see Billy 7. Metropolis.
I see Brendan.
Brendan. Brendan Parker.
All right, talk about stuff.
Okay, so close to 270. Now let's different topic.
No. Oh my gosh.
I'm serious. Let's not talk about that, please.
You got it. Sarcasm.
We could talk about the T-shirt I found. Oh wait,
Tell me.
I shouldn't talk about that either.
Oh. Well, let's see. Oh, I have I think I wrote down something for me to talk about. Let's see if I can pull that up.
So we can
Go
talk
ahead.
about. I got my Synvectron working, so I can now play War of the Worlds on my Asteroids Deluxe cocktail table.
Nice.
I can play Star Castle, War of the Worlds. Now they did this thing where you can play some of the games like Tail Gunner. The problem is that you have like an up, down, left, right, and so you're basically doing analog joystick with buttons, and it's terrible. Like it's just not. After a little while, I just shut it down. I'm like, this just completely is not worth the time or energy of doing this.
Ah.
But it's really fun playing War of the Worlds. Armor Attack, not so great because like if you get rid of the actual pattern over the screen on Armor Attack, really difficult game to play because you're just running into stuff and no idea why. And there's a few games on there that are interesting. But again, I've been practicing my War of the Worlds the most. And then I've actually been enjoying Asteroids Deluxe a little bit too. So very easy to switch back and forth.
Asteroids Deluxe. That's a great... Do you just need to make a switcher then?
Well, somebody was making one, and they supposedly had too much noise in it. So they, I don't know what the noise was causing, but they said that it was really disrupting the ability to switch between those two in a way that they felt marketable. So they stopped. There was somebody working on that. And there's like the giant circuit board you can put in your Asteroids Deluxe machine to mount the Synvectron. So, sorry, Doug, you probably don't know. I'm just using these terms. But, so Synvectron is a FPGA emulation of Cinematronics games that somebody built that installs directly into Asteroids Deluxe cabinet. So you can play games like Rip Off, War of the Worlds, Star Castle, all on kind of traditional black and white vectors that weren't Cinematronics vectors.
Okay.
Which is pretty neat. And they did the FPGA emulation, so it's a hardware emulation running the original ROMs, and so theoretically, if done correctly, the actual emulation is much closer to the original play of the game. In some cases, like with the bit kit that Crafty Mech did, Tim McVeigh will say he can't tell the difference between Nibbler on a bit kit and Nibbler on a real machine, on a real board set. So, kind of interesting stuff that's being done.
On this show, I will not ask the question, why?
No, that's a great question.
It is.
That's an excellent question. I think a lot of it comes down to some of these games that people are, like War of the Worlds. There's so few of them made, and people want to be able to play this on a vector monitor. And so by doing this, you kind of enable people to be able to take their Asteroids Deluxe, which is a relatively common machine, and play War of the Worlds, or play. Actually, they put QB3 on there,
Right.
which is a Rockola game that is a prototype. And so a lot of the collectors now are kind of, I guess, getting bored with normal stuff and looking for, hey, what can I find that nobody has or is not here or not there? And I was lucky enough, I actually own a War of the Worlds cabinet, one of the original dedicated ones. But, it is kind of a fun, different game.
Okay. 2 things, Brian.
Hmm?
Number 1, shut up. Number 2,
What?
What?
No.
The hostility.
Number 2, you look like you're sitting in a hole.
Oh, it's a little low.
You're just
Could
a.
you show off your beautiful body there? You go.
You need some more scrub there. Huh? I'll drop the neckline a little too there.
Could you wear a U-neck from now on? Thank
Hey,
you.
you guys, this is season 5, so I had to change my background. People are asking about that.
They don't make you neck scrubs, and I don't have other clothes.
Yeah.
I can't wash my own clothes.
What is to your right, Adam? That ledge over there.
To my right,
Is that a?
my right is over here.
Yeah. Well, behind you to your right.
Right there.
That little ledge that you.
Yeah,
a
that's
window?
that's a window.
Oh, it's a window. Okay.
It's one of those things. It's a screen. It's very boring.
This is
So
a
it's outside.
curtain that has the ATARI logo on it, but you can't see it because it's too big.
I see. Okay.
Okay, I'll
that's
ask
your-
the same question again. Why is there a curtain with the Atari logo on it?
So he could take a bath in that room.
That's my so this when I am able to open up my arcade again to people, I want to be able to shut off my recording stuff and all my soldering equipment. So and I don't have the clearance for a closet door clearance, so I had to put a curtain up, and it just so happens that a shower curtain fits here perfectly, and so I printed an Atari shower curtain to cover up all my stuff. Hey, you know what? I think we should do a show. It's the 5th season.
Start it up.
5th season.
5th. 5. Number 5 is alive. Okay, let's hit this thing. Whoa.
Live from KOIR Studios in Minneapolis, Minnesota, this is
Arcade Radio.
R-A-D-E.
Where I live. Run, run, run.
You survived.
How do you like that? That's the new intro. And hello, and thank you for listening in from the Arcadosphere. This is Season 5, Episode 1 of the Arcade Radio Podcast. Today is Thursday, November 5th, 2020, and the time is now approximately 7:24 p.m. Central. I'm your host, Dr. K. I'm joined by my co-host, Mark. They really cleaned this place up, Shields. And Paradise Arcade Shop proprietor and part-time magician, Brian Thurston Howell Armitage III. And joining us tonight, co-founder and former chairman of the legendary General Computer Corporation. Folks, please offer up a warm round of applause for Mr. Doug Macrae.
Hey guys.
welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, well, the first thing we do is we talk a little bit about what we've been working on, which is a small segment to tell, just like if you're, whatever hobby you're doing. So, Doug, if it's not arcade games, maybe you're geocaching something. You could give us a little summary of that. Mark, why don't you give us an example of what you've been working on?
Sure. I recently purchased a Play Choice 10. I've been cleaning that up. My garage is super heaving from the sides, so I need to take some games to Conroe. That will not be one. That one's coming inside. I'm kind of liking that. I'm also looking to buy land to build a big metal building that I'm going to live in and put arcade games and stuff. So I'm in the middle of that. And also, I picked up 5 more games because I just don't have enough from Coin Op Warehouse, and that includes an Atari Super Breakout, Midway Wheels 2, a Midway Boot Hill, which I really like, and an empty Nintendo Punch-Out cabinet. Actually, it has Blood Brothers installed, and it's missing a monitor. Oh, and an Atari System 1 Peter Pack-Rat.
Nice.
So that's a lot.
So you got a Play Choice 10. What games do you have in your Play Choice 10?
Well, I have a Metroid in there that everybody's like, oh my God, I have to have Metroid. And I'm like, yeah, I've never played Metroid, by the way, so I probably don't. I've not been properly indoctrinated, but it has a gun, and Duck Hunt is the only game on it. And of course, it is not calibrated in any way, so I cannot kill any ducks. I don't even know if it's working, so I've got to go figure that out. That'll be fun. And then just a ton of the standards like Super Mario, Mario Brothers, Balloon Hunt, I guess, or what is it? Balloon Fight or something.
Yep.
Balloon Fight. I like that.
There's Excite Bites in it. I like that.
Balloon Fight's like Joust.
Yeah.
It is.
And it's actually a lot of fun.
I love Metroid, by the way.
Yeah.
That was one of the games I played. It's one of the few console games I played the heck out of. And so that was a must-have, and I love the music in that game.
Sweet.
Yeah. So it's everything. It all works, so I didn't have to do much. I just did some spray paint renovation, where I just sort of masked some places off. Got it beautiful. Yeah. So that's what I've been doing.
Sweet.
I have an announcement in the section that Adam tries to get rid of every two. By the way, Adam.
Yeah.
Like intro.
Yeah, my new intro. Isn't it awesome? I love it.
Yeah, with no gadgets.
What? Oh, you're right.
You erase the gadget tab, you move it, and you don't put gadgets in the intro.
You sound irritated. Oh. You really do.
I can leave. I can just.
You can?
Out.
You already left. You're in Colorado.
I did.
Jeez. Hey, speaking of Colorado, I suppose you're not allowed to use recreational marijuana there.
Yeah.
So it's one of the weird things. I've never smoked pot.
Me neither.
And I just never had an interest. But I can tell you what I've been working on.
Yeah? Go ahead.
Because there's a bunch of stuff.
All right.
So the biggest thing I've been working on, and I'll is that we got a building in Rosedale, and we are opening an arcade at some point in the not too distant future. So we've got 150 games to get ready. A good 100 or so of them are already ready, but
Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat.
Yeah. So everything. War of the Worlds, Speed Freak. There'll be Street Fighters there, candy cabinets there.
Piranha?
Crystal Castles. Piranha will not be there yet. I've got to do a little bit more work on Piranha. But the Return of the Jedi is there in the new cabinet. Gauntlet. Tubin ended up there. It's going to be a wide, and if everything works, hopefully the Cockpit Star Wars will be up there also. So you'll be able to play a Cockpit Star Wars out on location. I don't think there's any other really rare, exciting ones off the top of my head right now.
It's a fun spot formerly a green mill, which I think they all went out of business, and it has an incredible bar in the middle. Are you keeping that, or what's that?
Well, so at least for now, we're not going to be doing any food or drink. It's just going to be arcades, pay at the door, and you go in and you just play. Everything's on free play. And actually, I just ordered 50 of these easy coin-up buttons from John on KLOV, so I'll give a little shout out. Reached out to him, told him that I needed these things, and he worked with me on it. And he's getting them to us in time to open up the arcade. But they're these little tactile buttons you stick on your coin door, run the wires around the inside. So for games that don't have free play, you can actually put these on there.
Yep. I've
Sweet.
got one on my Disc of Tron I just added.
There's actually, I'm looking at, so my Dragon Spirit and my Lost Tomb, which will not be in the arcade because they're out here in Colorado, which are right in front of me right now, both have them on there. I know Miranda Zyla out here used them extensively.
Yeah,
And,
well, she started with coins, and I only run coins.
Oh.
See
And-
flashy coins?
And that is always the debate. The biggest problem with doing coins in an arcade now is that the number one thing you're having to fix are coin jams. And so the thinking is that this reduces the chance of that, plus it allows people to go in and out.
Yep.
And Billy Seven is harassing me from the chat. Awesome. So we have a Blueprint Cabaret that's going in that'll be kind of fun. There's probably going to be about a dozen games that you won't see many other places, and probably about 6 or 7 games that won't be available anywhere else in the country on, like, outside of collections to play, like so on public play, which will be kind of fun. So I'm pulling some of the rare stuff out of my collection and putting it in.
Fun. Well, I'll go next because, we want to get through this so that Doug can do it next,
Yeah.
So I've been working on a ton of things on the break. It's good to be back. Missed being here every week and in the chat. And by the way, we are only going to be doing the show every other week as we normally used to do it.
My wife thanks you.
Yep, I thank me. Brian thanks me. And plus, it's hard to get a guest every week when you have a day job. So I've been working on fixing stuff. My centipede broke. There was a color problem. I fixed that board set. I had a dead millipede board set that I bought that was untested. I fixed that. It turned out to be a CPU and 22114 RAMs and a Pokey. Mr. Video. I've set up a Mr. Video setup. If you've been paying attention on the interwebs Facebook thingy, I posted a little picture of that. So my Nintendo and Donkey Kong have external LCD monitors now that are hung on the wall. So they display above them. So when you peek into that room, if you want to see what people are playing, it's on the wall. It's kind of fun. Just like those old days. My Popeyes had a video problem for a really long time. I fixed that. My Mr. and Mrs. Pac-Man was having a huge problem with when you're playing and the ball went out the left out hole, it reset the whole game. So I fixed that. It ended up being a 5101 RAM, and I ended up buying a new MPU and replacing the whole thing. And then I fixed my Xenon, which was having a switch problem, and but the chimes in my Pioneer. Doug, you might be familiar with Pioneer, actually.
I used to own one. That was the first pinball machine I had that I got from my brother. And that's how the whole business got started. My brother was up at Bowdoin College and was living in a frat and came home one Thanksgiving break and tried to convince my dad it'd be a really good idea if he bought a pinball machine and set it up in his frat and got quarters off of it. So my dad decided it would be real good to teach my brother a lesson that he has no mechanical ability whatsoever. His idea of overhauling it would be he would clean the glass, and that was about it, and empty the quarters out. But my dad decided it would be a good business lesson for my older brother. So my dad went in on it. They bought a Pioneer pinball machine, drove it from New Jersey up to Maine and put it in his frat.
Whoa.
And this is the only pinball machine in history, I believe, that could run 6 months without any failures whatsoever. But it would run for 6 months. He would drive it home each summer, and I would work on it and get it running perfectly again, and he'd take it back to school.
Wow.
And then eventually he went off to law school, never became a mechanical guy whatsoever.
Wow.
And gave me the pinball machine. And so that pinball machine started up my whole business of bringing that up to MIT. And I'll talk about that story later.
All right, that's awesome.
Wow.
So my Pioneer, Doug, you're familiar with the chimes inside of a Pioneer. So when you hit the, pop bumpers and such, they go ding, da 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 ding ding, and there's a little piece of weather stripping basically that goes underneath the solenoids that kick those chimes, and when it wears away, it makes a really loud clacking noise. So you'll hear ding, but you also hear this like metal on metal noise, which is like, I don't know, like this. So it's not pleasant.
No.
And it really didn't bother me a whole lot because I didn't know at first. But then I have a friend who actually was on the show in the first season, Jason Heiser. He pointed out that they were clacking, and so then every time I played, it would bother the heck out of me. So then I finally fixed it. So then I also fixed a 4-board Donkey Kong stack, which is on eBay right now. And that is, I replaced all the sockets, all those single wipe sockets on the Donkey Kong boards. Now this one has dual wipe sockets on all of it, and I replaced a couple of caps too that were out of spec. But that thing's running nice. Oh, and Halloween was here recently, and Christine got me a couple of gifts that I thought I'd share on the air here. They're complimentary trick-or-treat bags. The cool thing, though, is that they're sponsored by Chuck E. Cheese.
Nice.
Pizza Time Theater, which is kind of cool. And
Are
then,
they vintage or?
Yeah, she found them at a thrift store. There was just a stack of them, and so she bought them. And then she got me a couple of these, too. So this is Happy Halloween Circus Pizza, which is a Minnesota chain.
Long gone.
Norman Pink started that business, and Joe Leese, who was on our first season, talked about that quite a bit. So that was fun. So, and then I also got over to Brian's shop finally with COVID going on, and I was able to pull out his Journey machine, which was Journey's Journey, I think.
That one was.
Yep. And I took a picture of all the wiring, so I can start to assemble my Journey. So that's going to be the next project. So that brings us to Doug. Doug, what have you been working on lately?
Unlike you guys, I have not been working on fixing any pinball machines or video games. My collection 6 years ago went off to Steve Golson, and he's curating them now until I have space to move them back into my house. I had moved to Florida 6 years ago and just moved back to Boston, but we're in the city now and do not have enough space to take back my games. So I am gameless. My hobby, since you were asking that way, has heavily been into geocaching. Part of it, I have 70 different geocaches out there themed off of video games, the classic video games of the 80s. And most of them, the container that you find the cache in is themed to the video game. There may be a puzzle that is based on the video game, and in many cases, the location is connected into the game also. So I've had a lot of fun with that.
That's cool.
But very recently, meaning 5 days ago, my wife and I hopped in our Tesla and drove from Boston to arrive in San Francisco just a couple hours ago to see our new grandson. And our way out here, we stopped and hiked into finding the oldest geocaches in South Dakota and Wyoming, Montana, and Wisconsin, which gives me the oldest geocaching in 48 of the states. I have 3 left since there's 51 states that count District of Columbia. But it's all part of my very avid geocaching hobby. When COVID has restricted me from traveling significantly, I can at least still hop in a car and do it.
Now, you could expand on that a little bit. You are not just collecting in the continental United States.
Well, up until COVID hit, I was still doing a lot of world traveling and trying to collect geocaches in different countries. I had gotten up to 131 different countries. For the year 2020, I had sites on 9 more and was going to get up to 140, but all those plans got canceled. So I'm awaiting things to calm down in this world, and I'll be hopping back on airplanes and traveling to bizarre places of the world.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun, actually. Where's
Very fun.
where's your favorite geocache overseas? What was that?
Probably my favorite was was down in Antarctica, which as part of it required you go for a swim. And so my wife and I both did a polar plunge. The water had large chunks of ice floating in it. And they warned us ahead of time. The biggest problem we went in from the shore is that by the time you try coming back out, your feet are totally numb and you'll bang your toes on the rocks and get all bloody and whatever. But
my God.
That sounds like a great time. That would be my favorite too.
It was about 9 a.m, and we had already finished 2/3 of a bottle of tequila to build up courage, and it warmed us up also. So,
Well,
that was all part of a geocaching dare, kind of.
What's that
Amazing.
movie, The Unsinkable Molly Brown or something? But there was somebody that survived the Titanic incident because they drank too much. So, kept their blood viscous, I guess. That's just crazy. That's just crazy. So that's amazing. So you're well, obviously well traveled, and I can't believe you picked Was it Antarctica?
Antarctica.
Wow.
It's funny because my mother just got back from there and did a polar plunge out off the back of one of the boats.
What the heck?
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
people do
yeah.
that in Minnesota too, right? That's a big thing in the middle of winter.
So the legend is, if you do it off the back of a boat, they tie a rope around you so that they could pull you back in case you have a heart attack and can't swim back in.
Oh.
Is that true?
I'll have to look at the pictures of her. I think it's more like, so I think one of the things that happens, they tell you when you do the polar plunges, you're supposed to exhale. Because when you jump in off the back of a boat, the tendency your body clamps up is to inhale. And so I think they actually tie the rope to you in case you inhale and aspirate water. And then they can pull you back in. Because then you panic and you go into a kind of a drowning reflex.
Wouldn't you want to inhale then, like hugely, so that when you jump in, you blow it all out?
Right, because you don't want to suck the water in.
Yeah.
So you jump in and you have enough oxygen in your system to last a few seconds to get back to the surface. So you actively exhale to keep from
Seems backwards.
drowning.
That just seems backwards.
Oh my goodness.
I don't like this conversation. It's making me ill.
That's like walking into a Denny's these days. I don't want to go in there.
I think we should move on to our first, whatever it is.
What is
Right?
our first thing?
I don't know. Oh, yeah, that's a new thing too, right?
Oh, that's kind of cool.
I always felt stars at ATARI was engineering.
Oh, you're an inventor.
Yes, I am.
What have you invented?
A lot of things.
Like?
Like a lot of things. Like things that you've heard of.
Like?
Well, things that you will have heard of, okay? Patents are pending.
Arcade gadgets with Brian McCloud.
So we actually get to do the gadget section? Like this
Yeah.
is real?
Okay,
This is
fine.
cool, man.
You can do the
And it's
gadget.
over.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of products today actually. One of them Brian Frober asked about in the chat, so I'm going to give a shout out to myself. We have a new
Oh, good.
Button removal system. So on Japanese buttons, there's little tabs that hold them into control panels, and to pull the buttons out, you can put. So somebody had invented a little tube that you put around the button and it pops it out easier. The problem is you have to take the wires off, and when you're doing these control panels with 6 buttons per player, it's much easier to pop the buttons out with the wires attached. And so I made this little round tube thing with a slot in it so that you can pop the buttons out, keep the wires attached, and then do quick button swaps. So because it was asked about today, Brian Frober asked about it, I figured I'd give myself a shout out. But the main shout outs for today, I thought these are ones I tried to stick within the theme, but I couldn't find anything that was really related back to the stuff that Doug had worked on. But I thought he might get a kick out of this because we have people who are kind of hacking the original systems or doing things to enhance what's going on. And the first one which I also thought Mark would be interested in, is somebody has come up with an Atari System 1 multi-cart.
Ooh.
So you can plug this cart into your Atari System 1.
Mm-hmm.
It works on really any System 1, but it plays Marble Madness, Indiana Jones, Roadrunner, Peter Pac-Rat, and Road Blasters. And he has done it to allow you to play with the Hall Effect Hall Effect stick from Roadrunner on all the games, or you can use the game's the original controls. So, anyways, it's $390. It's on KLOV. That's an unassembled kit. I think he's going to charge $490 for an assembled kit. It looked pretty interesting and kind of fun. So
is Peter Pac-Rat a Hall Effect or a regular logo stick? Do you know?
I thought Peter Pac-Rat was a regular one. This is one of those ones that I've debated with people a few times. I don't know for sure. I've never owned a Peter Pac-Rat.
Well, I'll let you know in a week. So.
The other interesting thing over on KLOV, third product of the day, I can't dismiss myself, is App Swan. So actually that was by Gadget Freak, was the Atari System 1 multi-cartridge. That's in the new product section. Also on KLOV, App Swan, or Apps WAN, has released Gottlieb CPU boards. So for games like Mad Planets, Q*bert Scroll, Insector, Wiz War, Nightmare, and Three Stooges, Tiles, q*bert Cube, Screw Loose, Video Vince, and Curveball, almost said Screwball, you can buy a new CPU with no damage. Now, it's not populated. They're not ready to go. They are blank boards. I believe they're $175 for a board, but if you have one of these, you have acid damage on your board, here's your solution. So, personally, I like to see these being done, because I think that these are some of the things that these games, when they have acid damage on the boards, or if they have thermal damage from monitors that are frying, doing these reproductions allows you to kind of resurrect those games. There's a lot of people that get out there and say, I had people arguing with some of the ones that we did, saying that people just want to put new boards in their machines, so they go and repopulate them. Anybody who's rebuilt a CPU board or rebuilt a monitor board knows it's not something you do just because you're bored on a Saturday and want to have a shiny board in your machine. It takes an incredible amount of effort to pull this off. But if you have, say, a Three Stooges and no CPU, here's your answer.
Cool.
And that's it for my gadget section.
All right.
Stevens.
Yeah, that's me. And this is the news. So, from CNET, Arcade 1-Up, Brian's favorite in the whole world.
Are we banning them this year?
Are those real?
Yeah, Arcade 1-Up wants you to have you relive all of your Gen X Outrun arcade dreams. So if you're under the age of 40, there's only why did they say that?
I have no idea.
That doesn't make any sense.
You're under the age of 40, but still the size of an 8-year-old, and can sit down in a cockpit that's about half the size of a real arcade machine and want to play on an LCD.
Well, plus, how do you call it a Gen X thing, wheel, and then just class?
You bought from Walmart.
I mean, you're almost not a Gen Xer if you're 40.
So the funniest thing I saw about these is somebody ordered one.
We haven't even talked about it yet.
It was less expensive than the shipping.
We're just talking about. We haven't talked about what it is yet. Anyway, it's an Outrun. 1-Up's coming up with an Outrun. So the best part is apparently it doesn't drain your 401k to get one. It's only $500, which couldn't you just buy a real one for $500?
Or less.
I don't know. Well, if you're lucky.
It is their cockpit version. So there's a seat. It's kind of like the. Did you see the Star Wars cockpit?
Yeah. No, it's not a cockpit.
It's a small bench. Yeah.
Yeah. You might as well just put a bench in front of your machine.
So I'm very mixed on 1-Ups, and I have talked about them a lot on the show.
Yeah, for someone who really hates them and doesn't want us to talk about them, you really talk about them quite a lot.
I sat down in the Star Wars version of this,
where
it was the sit-down version.
Yeah.
I mean, people joke about the cockpit Star Wars being made for teenagers, so, it's impossible to get in as an adult. And
it is pretty small.
Whatever. these make that look large.
Doug would fit.
Yeah.
He looks pretty trim.
I don't fit well.
Yeah.
Maybe back in the 80s, yes.
Well, George Lucas fit inside it, but he was, probably 28.
George Lucas is a little known fact, only 4'8". Yeah.
What? That's not true. You just made that up on the that like 86% of all stats are made up on the spot. So,
I mean, they never show people sitting on these things because it looks ludicrous.
Yeah.
You sit down on it, like they literally have all these pictures of them, but they don't show anybody actually playing it because when you play it, like you look like an adult trying to ride a kiddie ride.
Well, now that we've wasted so much time on the news, I think we're going to move on to the next section, just for the sake of getting to an interview around the top of the hour.
What about that very last little article there?
Yeah, we should talk about the last article.
Okay. From IdahoStatesman.com, Grinker's Grand Palace Arcade closes. That's all I got to say about that.
Horrendous.
Yeah, it's terrible. I am sporting the red lights tonight.
We should do that.
Yeah. I mean, it can change them to any color, but it's in honor of Grinker's. The best arcade ever that was. COVID knocked him out. So owner Steve Barbie said that the permanent shutdown happened after a lease abatement, taking COVID-19 into account, couldn't be reached with the building owner. So Grinker's opened in 2012, but this shutdown came quick, according to Steve. He said, "We tried to secure extra time so we could find another place to potentially move to, but the landlord was super aggressive. We did not have time to do anything." Like many businesses, Grinker's has struggled in recent months after the pandemic caused forced closures, capacity restrictions, and other financial duress. It's 100% because of COVID, Barbie said. It's just not sustainable. And I think we could probably maybe even have him on the show to talk about this in the near future.
Sure.
He's been on a few times, but I always love having him on the show. So I'd also like to get the skinny about which games went where. Because there was 306 games on site.
Some of the games I bought were his overflow games.
That went to Court
I'm
Arcade.
insanely jealous of the boot hill that you got.
Oh, it's so pretty.
And you have them already?
No, they're being shipped. Beltman is hooking me up.
Yeah, they gave you a good deal.
Yeah. And I got $100 off because I have another machine that's piggybacking. Arcadeology has a cliffhanger cabinet that's also coming along. It's empty, but
that's cool.
That'll be
Excellent. Well, let's move on to the very next segment, which I know we're going to have a few changes with this. I don't even know what to say really, but let's move along here. And here we go.
Back in '82. I used to be able to throw a pigskin a quarter mile.
Back to the cave with Time Runner.
Why are things so heavy in the future? Is there a problem with the Earth's gravitational pull?
Hey guys, welcome to Back to the Cade. I recently found a Dan Rather fronted news clip from the 80s that discusses the scourge of video games in Boston during the summer of '82. And, Doug, are you living in Boston currently? I mean, is that your home? Like what?
That's my hometown.
That's your hometown. So maybe you'll find this interesting. It seems Pac-Man and Frogger were terrorizing the city, and children's lives were being totally lost. This clip's about 2 minutes and 12 seconds, but that'll go pretty quick. Let's just listen in and discuss.
It was awful. I lived through that period in Boston. Oh boy.
It was so bad.
It was so bad. I don't know if I can. Well, let's try this. If this doesn't work, I'm going to have to go back to your link.
Steve Young's in dear old Boston, the home of the cod and the bean. Now the first American city to zone those darned machines.
The way officials tell it, Boston has become the victim of an electronic blight. With fewer than 600,000 people, the city has 4,000 to 5,000 video games, not just in arcades, but also in drugstores, pizza parlors, supermarkets.
In some sections of the city, we have a machine or two machines and sometimes three machines in virtually every single corner store in a neighborhood.
City officials today announced that video games no longer will be licensed in residential areas, only in commercial and industrial neighborhoods. Officials say they are responding to complaints from parents that children have skipped school or stolen money to play the games and made a nuisance of themselves.
Senior citizens have rights. They have rights to go into the laundromat and wash their laundry in peace. They don't have to go by 2 or 3 machines or kids congregating and passing fast remarks as they walk in and terrorizing them in some instances as they go in.
Under the new regulations, licenses for about half the video games already in Boston are unlikely to be renewed.
You don't even have one.
Including those in the basement of the South Boston Martial Arts Academy.
The reason we requested to have video games is so we could bring in extra money so we could allow those kids that are out in our neighborhoods that can't afford to come.
When they don't have something to do, when they're walking the streets, that's when problems are created, not because of machines. The lack of machines causes problems.
You're always talking about this demeaning, making kids' minds like vegetables. Talk about them out on the streets smoking pot.
One MIT study of more than 800 video game players found no basis in fact for an underlying fear expressed by parents during public hearings that video games lead to violence. Though a conclusive study has yet to be conducted, Boston went ahead with its restrictive rules. The industry plans to fight City Hall in court. There have been skirmishes before as smaller communities acted, but now a full-scale battle has been joined between the video game industry and its opponents. Steve Young, CBS News, Boston.
Wow. Dan Rather introduced that segment.
That's national.
Yeah. He's like, well, this is big news. We need to shut down these arcades.
Yes. Those people washing their clothes just want peace.
Oh boy is right. Oh boy is right, Brennan Parker. Brennan Parker, reverse engineer of Crazy Otto and asker of Crazy Question of Doug.
Yes.
He probably has another crazy question for you coming up. You know, which register on which line of code, blah, blah, blah.
Always trying to finagle the code out.
Yeah.
Yes. Adam, I have a quick question, of course. It's the one I ask at this point every time.
Okay.
What's in the juke?
All right. Okay.
Boom.
Welcome to Season 5 edition of What's in the Juke.
Oh, boy.
It's the game within a podcast. Today we'll be doing...
Wrapped in an enigma.
That's correct. We're going to play random audio clips from the 80s. 80s movies specifically tonight. If you can guess the title of the movie, you will receive a half point.
Oh, I'm supposed to play a clip.
Half point.
There we go.
There you go.
Full point.
So, and we're going to have you guess the actor's name who plays that character, and then you will also receive...
Full point. Half point.
No, a half point. Half point. Dang it! You're out of... Okay, it's okay. If you can guess both title and the actor's name, then you'll receive...
Good.
No, a full point. Damn it.
Full point.
What kind of game show is this? This is like the worst 4-minute game show ever. If you don't know either, please fight it out amongst yourselves.
Randy Gelking is just guessing Ghostbusters right off the bat.
Shut up, Randy. Stop guessing, everybody.
Back to the Future, Top Gun.
Just
be disqualified.
Eric Estrada, Goonies. I love it.
All of these movies start with a Z. How about
Somebody
that?
might get one, actually. This is
I'm
hilarious.
About the Z.
All right, here comes your...
So now the fighting is over. Let's go.
Here comes your first clip.
And I want the rest of you cowboys to know something. There's a new sheriff in town, and his name is Reggie Hammond. Y'all be cool. Right on.
Yeah.
That's not Bo Derek. I'm sorry.
No.
That is not correct. Not Cheech and Chong. Not RoboCop.
That's a pretty good one.
It is a good one.
Not Aliens. Not Bachelor Party.
Oh my gosh. This is
all I can think of is like red leather Like, you know.
Eddie Murphy is correct, Mr. Peabody.
Yes.
And it is Beverly Hills Cop. Mike Page, a half point for both of you guys.
No, it's not Beverly Hills Cop.
Oh, no, it's not.
No, Brad Holman got it. 48 hours.
48 hours. Okay, that's good.
Half point.
It is not Beverly Hills Cop. Okay, here's your next clip.
You ever seen a grown man naked?
We need to balance some of these out a little bit. That's pretty quiet. I'll play it again.
You ever seen a grown man naked?
Oh, I'll give you a hint. It's not Leslie Nielsen.
No.
It is Airplane.
Mike Page got that.
Mike Page with a half point.
It's
half point.
The actor. It's sort of a disease of the thyroid, if you're familiar with that.
And who's the actor? We're gonna have trouble with these, aren't we?
Disease of the thyroid and a slang term for the
Peter Graves.
Oh, there we go.
Half point.
All right.
I didn't have to say it.
And again, thank you very much. Okay, and here comes your next clip.
Are you the police?
No, ma'am. We're musicians.
There you go.
Awesome.
It's Carrie Fisher. It's one of my favorite Carrie Fisher movies.
You guys don't have to guess the woman. You can guess the man that's speaking in this clip. But I felt like the beginning was important.
Are you the police?
No, ma'am. We're musicians.
Doug,
Billy Seven.
Doug, are you getting any of these?
Oh yeah, I know it.
Okay, good.
Mr. Peabody gets it.
Blues Brothers, and it is not Eddie Murphy. Who said Eddie Murphy?
Billy Seven.
I wonder if Billy Seven is that far behind.
Metropolis gets another half point. Do you know? I asked the other day in the operating room how many people had seen this movie, and like nobody had seen it.
Really?
So
there are a lot of young people in the operating room.
Yeah.
They were off playing arcade games in Boston and not watching the movies.
That is, although most of them have not. It's just a lot of younger techs.
Park the car. Let's go play some video games. All right.
Yeah, I need to look up some other Boston terms people say.
Wicked. They say
wicked.
wicked.
Yeah, it's wicked. This is a wicked arcade. Okay, that's the best I can do.
That was pretty terrible.
I have a story about
give me
Smith College, and I have several stories about Boston. I love Boston. I've been there many times.
I've only been there once.
Okay, here's your next clip.
Hey, everybody, we're all going to get laid.
I love this.
I'm going to play this one.
Hey, everybody, we're all going to get laid.
I might just play that on every show.
Yeah.
That's funny. Oh, that's really good. It is not Dan Aykroyd. Billy's a little behind.
He's like one thing behind on.
Yeah.
He's got to have a delay going. He probably is not on live.
He's probably using his phone.
Brad Holman, Rodney Dangerfield. That's right.
There you go.
All right, and it is back to the school. No, that's not correct.
I think Billy might actually be at the shop.
Half point.
All right, who got a half point? Mark, tell us what the scores are right now. Let's move this along.
Sure. Well, Brad Holman and Metropolis are tied with Mr. Peabody at 1 point. Excuse me, so much beer. And then in the not so distant second place, Mike Page and Brad Frober are tied with a half point.
Brian Frober?
Brian Frober.
Yeah, we don't have a Brad Frober. We have Brad Holman.
Typing the word.
All right.
Yes.
Next clip.
Oh, gnarly. Oh, gnarly.
These are good.
Another good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm actually kind of enjoying it. It's entertaining.
Did you see the? Well, we'll talk about it after people get it.
Okay.
Well, there was so the other. I think I'm getting the quote right. I'm not going to give it away before they.
Fast Times at Ridgemont High is correct. And who is Sean Penn?
Yeah, it is Sean Penn. Metropolis got that. Who's now in the lead?
Are we taking either actor or character? Or just
Only actor.
Only actor. Okay, great.
Right.
All right. Great. There was some points there. I should probably play like a
half point.
And there's a big fight going on. Yeah, that's good. Man, all right, here comes your next clip.
I asked for a car, I got a computer. How's that for being born under a bad sign? I asked for a car, I got a computer. How's that for being born under a bad sign?
Man, if you don't know who that is.
That's a good low-key moment because he like goes in and he hacks his like grades and stuff.
Yeah, like in War Games, I love that movie so much. It's not War Games.
I know, but he hacks a computer in both movies.
Yep, he does.
I asked for a car, I got a computer. I asked for a
Okay, Mike Page.
I asked for a car, I got a computer. How's that for being born
It
under a bad
is Ferris
sign?
Bueller's Day Off, and it is who? Did somebody finally get his name?
Holman did. Brad
Okay.
Holman.
Brad Holman, yeah.
Brad Holman. All right, good. Good job, guys. I'm going to give you both
half point
for that. All right, here comes your next clip.
Snap out of it.
Boy, oh, nice. There's a little bit of a Boston accent in that one.
Snap out of it.
Or maybe Jersey. Why don't you have a Jersey accent either? Are you from Hoboken? Where are you from?
Short Hills.
Oh, yeah. That is the Garden State. You're probably in the garden part of the state.
A nice part.
We have a beautiful garden.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I drove over the Ben Franklin Bridge, there's a beautiful garden like for like a quarter of a mile. And then right after that is like 400 gas stations that will gladly fill up the tank.
Our corporate office used to be in Jersey City. So.
Yeah. The funny thing about Jersey is there's a toll from every direction to go into Jersey, but it's free to get out.
That's right.
Or sorry, it was the other way. Yeah, it was. No, sorry, it was the other way. You have to pay to get out. But it's free to get in.
That's
right.
funny. Come on in.
Come on in. Yeah, man, I've accidentally entered that bridge like at least 10 times when I was living there. It's terrible.
We have Moonstruck and Cher. Who got those?
half point.
But I would say Cher and Metropolis got that first. Who puts them in the lead, and then Moonstruck is also Metropolis. Holy crap!
All right. Oh, we get to play the full point clip.
Full point.
All right. Let's move to the next one.
Snakes. Why did it have to be snakes?
Oh, I know this one. It's
reptile.
Star Wars, and that's Luke Skywalker.
What?
Chewbacca.
Oh yeah.
Oh, did you? All right. Did you see Clay posted that his wife said somebody showed up at work on Halloween as Kombucha? You know, the guy from Star Wars, Kombucha.
Kombucha.
Kombucha. He's like, you mean?
Yeah.
You mean Chewbacca?
So it showed up as kombucha, a fermented drink.
Mike Page got Raiders of the Lost Ark. That is correct. And Metropolis got Harrison Ford.
Half point.
All right, those guys are neck and neck. All right, here comes your next clip.
Dead or alive, you are coming with me.
Oh, yeah.
You know, there's a really good extended fake version of this that they have on, I don't know if it's on YouTube, but
yeah,
I'll have to send you the link where they recreate the scene, and there's just a lot of shooting in the lower region of the person, and they're shooting a lot. Like
Dead or alive, you are coming with me.
RoboCop, who is that? Buckaroo Banzai.
Mike Page got that.
It is Peter Weller in Metropolis. Boy, those guys are just like bouncing them back and forth.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. All right. So that was a half point for both those guys. And here comes your next clip.
Say hello to my little friend.
You picked some really good ones here. Are they specific years or?
I think they're like 86 to 82, somewhere in there.
So there's no specific year.
No, but I have a ton more. So
yeah.
Say hello to my little friend.
That needs to be a Quake, or like one of the first-person shooter game clips. Say hello
I need
to
that.
my little
I need
friend.
that as a ringtone.
Just yelling it over and over again. Say hello
Mike
to my
Page
little
got it.
friend.
Scarface.
That's funny. All right, who got this one?
And Mr. Peabody got Al Pacino.
Nice.
Half point.
All right, and the next clip is...
I can't believe I gave my panties to a geek.
Oh my God, that's a great clip.
See, these are a little bit, not the more standard ones that
Right.
you would hear.
Yeah. Like, I can't believe my parents blanking forgot my birthday. You could have put that one in there.
I can't believe I gave my panties to a geek.
It's not Alf. Who said Alf? That's funny.
It's not weird science.
Al
I'm going to
Pacino.
give this one to Mike Page. 16 candles.
16 candles. And who is the actress? If you can. Doug, who is it? All right.
Molly Ringwald.
He got it. Molly Ringwald. We'll give it to Brad Holman because he said it at the same time you did. All right. And then this is the last one. We have a lot of these in here.
Or 12.
We did 12. We should have been done.
I feel the need for speed.
All right, Doug, who is it?
Go.
I'm drawing a blank.
I feel the need for speed.
Top Gun is correct.
There you go, yes.
And who are the actors? Or the
Or at least one of the actors.
Yeah. Just
Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise is correct. Well, all right, we have to give Doug a point for that.
Full point.
All right, so okay, we are wrapping this up. Let's see who won.
Results: Mike Page and Metropolis tied for first place. Behind them, Brad Holman with 2 points, and in third, Mr. Peabody with an honorable 1.5 points.
I gotta let Metropolis eke this out for saying after the panties comment. My wife said that just this morning.
Oh no, Metropolis!
Oh my gosh, this is terrible. Good thing this show is rated not for children. Okay,
Right.
so normally we have something to give away on these, epic shows like the season finale, season premiere. We didn't set up a contest, but we could give something away.
Well, we could give how about a hearty hi ho and a pat on the back. That's my favorite.
Adam will do the outgoing
Well-
message on your home answering machine.
I was just thinking, Doug might have a coin or something we could give away.
I have some Ms. Pac-Man coins.
Well, let's give one away.
Okay.
All right, Mark, can you make that happen?
Sure. Should we? I'll just put Miss Pac-Man coin.
Yep, Miss Pac-Man coin. And then, Doug, we need a secret word for people to register so they can win at the end of the show.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Well, we basically what we do is we set up a form and people have to type in a secret word. So
Well,
you
they
get
just have
make
to
up
register
any
so
word.
we can put their names into a hat. And we're going to draw a name at the end of the
If
show.
it's a secret word, do I tell everybody?
Yes. It's only
okay.
Because only people that are listening to the show can win.
Got it.
Yeah.
Because we have so many people hitting the website. We don't want people just filling, spamming.
Random people from Russia.
Yeah.
They don't need it.
Yeah, we don't want that
Got it.
happening.
So I will put in the secret word is the name of my sister, Sue.
Sue.
Who is also the name of the fourth monster in Ms. Pac-Man that I named after my sister.
And that
Nice.
that is awesome. Because she was a monster.
Oh.
I never said that.
How did
Gotta
she
be
feel?
more to that story.
That must be awesome because the TV show used Sue, right? So
yeah,
the cartoon. Nice.
Yo, Eddie, welcome to the show. We got some new people out there. Who's HSC ITKO? What does that even spell?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Any
It's
voice-
probably the Gleek. He's always changing his name.
Yes. It's less racist today. That's
It's
nice.
less racist. I did peer pressure him into changing his name, and
That's smart.
I just thought it's we're past that.
Okay.
All right. So while you get that set up, and the everybody remember the name is Sue, and the form will be ready shortly.
Less than 3 minutes.
Okay, and in the meantime, I think we got to move along because this is. I mean, we're ready. We've been ready for a long time. Wait, were you going to say something, Mark?
Oh, I mean, was there any voicemail? Is my question.
I don't know. I haven't checked the voicemail in a long time.
Nobody leaves us voicemails.
Yeah, I think there's no voicemail. Is there a voicemail?
There is.
God damn.
There's a voicemail in the voicemail tab.
What?
Tab. That's why we have that tab.
It's like the gadget tab. You can't just ignore it.
I think this voicemail actually addresses Doug.
Oh my gosh. I don't understand. All right. We have a voicemail, ladies and gentlemen. No. We're so professional. We have all these cues, and then we just backed out of this one.
Thank you for calling 612-548-GAME. This is Arcade Radio. Please leave your message after the tone.
Buddy, Bob Zarzadek, control panel expert and technician. Happy November 5th, y'all. Remember, the 5th of November of gunpowder treason and plot. I know of no reason why the gunpowder treason should ever be forgot. I love that. Man, I always wanted to say that. You remember that movie? V for Vendetta? Hey, you remember that part where Natalie Portman, when she wore that pink dress and had her hair in curls? Man, I like that a lot in a very legal and not a sick and twisted way. Yeah. Man, excellent cinema, as they say. So anyway, hey, what's going on? Can't wait for this interview here with Doug Macrae, maker of one of my favorite games with a girl who also wears pink. You guys have a great kickoff to Season 5, and don't forget your buddy Bob, okay? I'm totally out of prison, and I am no longer being chased by farmers, police chiefs, or ex-girlfriends.
I almost forgot him.
That's a long story. Let's save that for our next episode, all right? Okay, talk to you guys later. Stars a deck out.
Wow. I almost forgot him. Wow. Poor Bob.
Well, that's our only caller.
Unless I actually go check the voicemail. But I don't want to check it now. All right, here we go.
Here we go.
Let's start this over. Welcome to the show, Mr. Doug Macrae. That's sort of, you get welcomed like 8 or 9 times to the show.
I've been welcomed already today, but I'll be welcome again. Thank you.
So it's good to have you here. We are super excited, and we have lots of really fun questions. But why don't you just start by, telling us a little bit about, you gave us sort of the start of your company, but give us a little bit about Doug Macrae and how he ended up, going to MIT and starting a company.
What were the rejected schools, or what are the schools that you were like, I am not going there?
As I was saying, I grew up in Jersey and was trying to figure out what school to go to. I had it all boiled down to 2 choices between MIT and Dartmouth. And our family was doing a family trip over Christmas vacation, and you had to have submitted your early application to one of the 2 schools by the start of Christmas vacation back then. And so I remember the night before they were due, and the night the next day we were hopping on a plane on our family vacation. I'm staring at the 2 applications, MIT or Dartmouth, trying to decide between the 2. And I start looking at them carefully, and Dartmouth had this really difficult essay question asking what book had the most meaning in your life or something like that. And I'm trying to even remember what book I read. And then I looked at MIT's application. It was mainly true false. And so I applied to MIT, got in, and went. So nice. It was the only school I ever applied to.
That's cool.
Nice. You chose right.
Yes.
I was a Cornell grad. Dartmouth's not worth going to.
Boolean logic every time.
Well, I guess that leads into the next question. So you're at MIT, you get a Pioneer machine, you become an operator, basically. So what did that look like?
So it started off as fun. We put it in a part of our dorm and started operating the game there, pulling in quarters and helping throw parties with the quarters that came out of it. And then I think Steve Golson talked about it on the last couple of years ago. The operator that was operating the pinball machines in the main part of our dorm, and our dorm was about 300 people, pulled the machine out because they were not being well maintained, and people treat machines badly. They're not maintained because they want to get the ball unstuck or they get frustrated and whatever.
Right.
So that ended badly. And I was vice president of our dorm at the time and said, okay, why don't we do this all differently? I'll bring in my Pioneer, place it down in the main hall there. I'll get a second machine, and I'll split the revenue 50-50 with the dorm to help throw parties.
Oh, that's cool.
So it was a great win-win for everybody. As I got the second machine, I decided to take on a partner, Kevin Curran, and from there we bought a third machine.
These were all pinball at this point.
These are all pinball. First was Pioneer, and then Paragon.
Okay.
And then we went with our first more digital electronic one, which was Playboy.
State. Oh, yeah.
And then we started expanding into video games as they were just becoming popular. I think our first was Fire One, which was a fun sub game.
Is that black and white?
Excuse me?
Is that black and white or is that color?
I think it was black and white, but had a
overlay
on it to give it color. But it was a two-player game where they split the monitor, and one person plays one side, one plays the other.
Cool.
And tries sticking the other person's subs. I've not seen one since we've owned it. I don't know how rare it is.
Well, Atari had a game, Atari Subs, that had two separate monitors, and you had to seek out the subs. Is that the same game?
What?
I don't know. I don't think it was made by Atari.
Interesting.
But then we've got a rip-off and a Star Castle.
Awesome.
Then
Cool.
a Battle Zone, and the Battle Zone was really well liked. And then the biggest game ever was Missile Command. I think it sat very well with the MIT engineers of trying to take out intercontinental ballistic missiles and all that, which is what they were also studying, is how to build intercontinental ballistic missiles. So it all rolled in very well. So we bought our first Missile Command. In the first week of operation, it pulled in $625.
Wow.
We did the math on it, and if every game lasted 3 minutes, I think it worked out to be played 21 hours per day.
Wow.
7 days a week. And so we bought two more and put them in other dorms as we expanded out. We had 25 games by the time we fully expanded to 3 or 4 different dorms at MIT. And the 3 Missile Commands were the hottest machines we had ever seen. But week 2 was about 2/3 of that. It fell from 625 to 400, and then fell from 400 to 300, down to 200. And we started scratching our head and saying, we've got a problem here. We paid $2,500 for this cabinet. We've paid it back, but it's way trailed off.
Yeah.
What can we do about it? And this is where we got in the idea of it needed enhancing. And that's how we started our business, other than just running an arcade room.
I would like to say, if you haven't seen the High Score documentary, you should check it out. Doug is in it, along with Steve Golson and Horowitz, right?
Mike Horowitz. And
they're all from GCC. The interesting thing about that documentary is they skate over certain details in the name of condensing the story, which is fine. But they also didn't even say General Computer Corporation once. GCC's not even mentioned. Which they just say you started a company, which is funny to me because that's, isn't it important to maybe say the name of the company? I don't know.
Well, we intentionally chose a name that was so generic that maybe Netflix did not view it as all interesting whatsoever.
They also didn't mention Taito.
They did or did not?
They did not. They talked about Space Invaders and the inventor, and they never said the name Taito once.
I wonder if they were, for some reason, not trying to promote corporations and had a particular desire not to have them in there.
It's just interesting. And maybe I'm wrong, but I just well, they talk about Atari quite a bit, which, I have the, over my left shoulder, Super Missile Command running right here, just in your honor.
Why, thank you.
I had a really quick question for you, a little off topic of arcades, but you mentioned the quarters were collected for parties. I had a friend who attended MIT in the late 90s, and MIT is kind of known as a very cerebral school, but what I didn't realize until he went there is that school really knew how to throw parties. So was that the case back when you went?
It was. That we worked hard on it. We got written up in 1979, I think, or 78 in Playboy magazine because our dorms would be sending out cars. Ours was an all-male dorm. We'd send out cars to go pick up women at some of the other female colleges in Boston and import them in.
That's funny.
So we could have parties.
That kind of, it reminds me of the movie Real Genius. The bunch of nerds making having a huge party and bringing in the girls. That's pretty funny.
And then they build creative things. Our dorm did not have one, but another dorm did. They had a vending machine that dispensed nitrous oxide. You put a quarter in and take a hit of nitrous.
That is funny. That is funny.
That does not surprise. I will say the idea of quarters paying for cars to go pick up women, genius.
Well, I'm not sure the quarters directly went into the cars that were picking up the women, but yeah, I guess you could tell the story that way.
So your first kit was a Super Missile Attack, and it was very successful.
Yeah, so the spring break of our senior year, as it was approaching, we were looking and seeing the decline of these missile command games. And we had looked around and said, had anybody even made one of these speed-up kits? And speed-up kits at the time were often just changing the crystal so that the processor would run a little bit faster and make the game more difficult. And sometimes they worked and sometimes they didn't. The game would sometimes malfunction when you sped it up too much. And players did not like the fact that they just got harder by making it faster.
Yeah.
And so we looked to do better. So we came up with a plan that we would take a missile command, it was a 6502 processor, and dump out the code and modify it and create a version 2 of the game. And we attacked this as a group of MIT students would, I guess. We disassembled all the code, reverse engineered it, and pretty much had a full manual of how Missile Command worked. And then we started looking at it and going, all right, so how about we try adding an object? So we added the UFO to it. How about if we, and so we started making changes to it and ended up not just making it more difficult so that the person that was playing it now for 40 minutes would now be back to 5 minutes or 10 minutes. But it was more interesting also as we introduced some new features to it, still keeping with the original game so that the person that enjoyed it would continue to enjoy it and keep playing it. And so we looked at it and said, we're going to do this, but we're going to do it very, very carefully. We understood what other enhancement kits were doing at the time. The speed up kits, if they were not changing out the clock, they were changing out the ROMs. They were taking ROMs, dumping out the code, finding out some of the settings in them, and reburning ROMs. And so they're sending out the original code and their own changes on ROMs, and we view that as a big copyright issue. I was in an intellectual property class at MIT then, and looking for ways around that, and came up with the fact that we would require the original ROMs to be part of the missile command or super missile attack, and that we would only add software to it, but we would never copy the original software. And so the way we sold our enhancement kit was you got a board, you take the ROMs out of the original missile command and put them onto our board and then attach our board in. And the way it would work is our code would get added on top of the original ATARI code, but we never copied it. And so that was our way around the biggest issue of copyright infringement. We were not copying ATARI's code as other enhancement kits were doing. And we felt we were totally clean on it then in terms of not violating any of the intellectual property issues with ATARI.
So just how successful was the kit?
So we started selling the kit in the back of the two trade journals at the time, Replay Magazine and Game, drawing a blank on the other. We took out full page color ads. We put on a nuclear explosion in the ad. And I think the title was Explosive Profits, because we were pitching directly to the game owners that wanted to get more quarters. We had an 800 number that rang in our house 24 hours a day. Someone would answer it. And we sold them for $295 a piece.
Wow.
Which to an operator, they would earn it back very, very quickly. To us, it was costing us about $30 to make these boards and mail them out to people. And we sold a little over 1,000 of them in the spring of our senior year of school. So our junior achievement project, or whatever you want to call it, netted about $250,000 of profit. And so that was what we did for our spring break.
$250,000.
Yeesh, that's a lot of money in 1982 or 81.
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
That's insane.
Yeah. Let's see. $250,000 adjusted for inflation.
Are you gonna do that?
Is $674,000 today. That's a lot.
It was a lot.
That's almost $1 million today. Well, it's 3/4 of the way there, almost. That's a lot of money. That's like a house and a half where I live.
Oh, in Boston, 1/10 of a house, but okay.
Yeah,
I was going to
exactly.
say,
Yeah.
That's funny. I mean, it's crazy. So, how did ATARI find out about you?
So, first we saw is that we saw a order come in, and we actually had these little invoice pads and taking the orders. And when an order came in, we actually recognized the name Skip Paul, or Charles Skip Paul. And I don't know how we knew it, but he was general counsel of ATARI, and he wanted to order one so he could check it out. We delayed sending it to him for a while, but we eventually did because we were very proud about how we engineered around intellectual property issues and said, here, go take a look at this. You probably just assumed we stole your code. And so it went off. But then a week or two later, we started hearing through the Boston arcade distributor, Bally Northeast, that ATARI was looking to potentially sue us over what we had done. And so it turned out that we had, during that time, run into a person who knew probably the best intellectual property attorney in the United States, a guy named Jerry Hosier, who lived in Chicago. Kevin and I flew out to O'Hare and explained to him what we had done. He agreed to meet with us in one of the lounges at O'Hare Airport. We explained what we had done, that Atari was looking to potentially sue us, and he got very excited about it. He viewed it was a new area of intellectual property law that had never been tested, and said, yeah, I'd be very interested in taking this up and working on this with you guys. But he goes, first of all, you guys don't want Atari to sue you. Don't let them. And we go, what do you mean, don't let them? Well, you have to sue them first.
Oh.
And we go, we sue Atari first? He goes, yeah, because then you'll get Boston as your venue rather than California. You control the case as opposed to them taking control. So what we believe happened was roughly 12 hours before they sued us, we sued them. General Computer sued Atari for declaratory judgment. Basically, we stated that there was this cloud hanging over our head that was hurting our business because Atari was putting out rumors that were getting around that we might be sued by them. So we wanted a court to determine whether what we had done was proper or not. So we sued in federal court in Boston, got our venue, and Atari immediately sued back, but the venue was chosen for Boston, which probably saved us from trying to work on stuff we were doing at the company and trying to do a case out in California. So we were assigned Judge Keating. I believe he was one of the original judges in the whole Boston busing crisis. He had no idea what a video game was. And we proceeded to roll some arcade games into his courtroom and start demonstrating to him. And most went over his head, but as many judges will do, they'll try seeing if the parties can reach some kind of agreement so that they don't have to solve a complex issue. Mm-hmm. And so the way he handled it was he delayed and delayed. But during that delay, he put a temporary restraining order on us so that we would not do further damage to Atari until this was resolved. And that was a major hit to us because we're going, that's not fair. You know, Atari's the big company. Yeah. They've got the deep pockets.
Yeah.
And Jerry Hosier, our lawyer, once again, in a very strategic move, said to the judge, you understand that, you know, this is a small company and they are going to be hurt by this temporary restraining order. So since you're putting it out there so easily, can we request that as soon as we have a version of the game that addresses every single issue that Atari brought up, can we have an immediate date in court to show it to you and then have you rule on that version? He goes, of course, that sounds fair. And this is a Friday afternoon. Jerry Hosier said, we request a court hearing Monday morning at 9 a.m.
Whoa.
And
there goes your weekend.
There goes our weekend.
Exactly.
And in the normal MIT style, we pulled double all-nighters, worked on it. And the Monday in court, we rolled the next machine in, and it looked nothing like the Super Missile Command, Super Missile Attack, Adam, that is in your background.
Oh, okay.
We did new stickers for the side. We changed the font. Atari claimed that that font was theirs. They claimed all the colors was theirs, so we changed every color in the game. We changed everything. Not that we thought it made a better game, but this was a way to have the judge really question what is protectable and what was not. Atari claimed that the font was recognizable, that the colors, the color scheme, and everything. So we changed it even more, because what Atari was claiming was.
Does it look anything like that?
It did not look much like the game in your background.
So I put a thing up on the on the screen. It's a promo we did for the show, and it has the new sticker on the side. I think might be what you're talking about.
Oh yes, that is the one that we produced for round 2 of Court.
And the colors I totally made up, but I thought.
Oh, okay.
This is I thought it was really cool, and you're standing in front of it, which is even cooler because there's only like 2 pictures of you of this age.
Well, I was probably getting ready to testify. Jerry Hosier was coaching me at the time. Yep, that is it. And I remember him talking and getting me all ready for this. But the real question that was coming out was, yes, we did not violate the copyright by copying Atari's code, but there was another issue on intellectual property law that was brand new at this point. How do you protect an audio-visual presentation? Mm-hmm. At this point, people would protect computer software by saying we're copyrighting the source code. Atari, in fact, on many of their games, had a C circle and then a P circle. The C circle was for copyright.
Oh yeah.
And the P with a circle around it was for phonographic copyright. They said we're copyrighting the audio-visual presentation through a phonographic copyright. They made it up. Phonographic copyright did not exist.
That's
but
good.
There was no way to protect at the time, but they viewed it was protectable.
So
there's a phonographic copyright, and then other manufacturers started putting that on theirs also, not knowing what it was, but if Atari did it, it must be the right thing to do. So in court, they're trying to decide how is it protectable. We did not copy the software, but Atari was claiming that there was a trademark dilution. We were hurting their trademark of Missile Command, and that there was a misrepresentation of origin. And the intellectual property law at the time behind misrepresentation of origin was the one we were stumbling upon, that it would be argued that if a kid came into the arcade and dropped a quarter in, did he know whether it was Atari's product or not Atari's product?
Interesting.
And that was a very, very tough thing to try ruling on because they probably said, oh, yeah, well, it's Atari's next version or whatever. And it was really, really tough to remove that, even when we changed all the font colors and whatever.
Sure.
So in any case, we go in for the second day. Atari looked at it. The judge once again said, let me take this under advisement. And Atari looked at it and said, okay, what you have now done has put this in serious jeopardy of us losing. The judge is going to have a real problem ruling against General Computer because the game is looking quite different, and you've pulled him further out on the limb. So Atari viewed that they were in trouble, wanted to figure out how to stop this whole thing, and so they contacted us and said, hey, what do you want out of this? And we said, we just want to develop games. They said, okay, here we'll give you a game development contract. And how much do you need to develop games? We quickly do a back of the envelope and go, $50,000 a month. And they go, okay, we'll do a 2-year development contract, $50,000 a month.
Oh my God.
To develop games. And we go, okay, and what do we have to do? Develop games. And, how do we get measured? Oh, if you develop a good one, that'll be great. And later on, we were somewhat naive. Our lawyer quickly pointed out that they have no reason to, they do not want you to develop games. They think that you're going to take the money, go back to MIT and graduate, get your diploma, or go sit on the beach with that money. And they don't care. There's no requirements on it. They are paying you in basically $1.2 million to go away, to end their problem. So we said, okay, we'll sign that development agreement, but you have to agree to drop the case with prejudice, because we don't want our image of General Computer Corporation tarnished. And dropping a case with prejudice says that they should never have brought the case against us to begin with.
That's interesting.
But in exchange for that, they put in the agreement that we shall never make a enhancement kit again, except for if we can get permission from the original manufacturer from that, knowing the original manufacturer will never give us permission.
See, gang, this is like the commentary section on the DVD. You watch the high score documentary, but now you're getting the behind the scenes story.
The deets.
I mean, this is really cool. So, and obviously, Mark, this and Brian, this has to lead into the Miss Pac-Man.
So wait, quick question though. Is that any, I mean, did they ask you for any manufacturer?
Yes.
That's interesting.
It is interesting.
They kind of like blanketed out. They said, we're going to cover every week. So they were essentially buying you off and establishing precedent.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's
and
you know,
and the exact wording got put in there by Jerry Hosier because he knew what we were up to. So it said explicitly the fact that we would not bring to market an enhancement kit without the permission from the original manufacturer of the underlying game.
So you actually ended up doing that, and were you developing Crazy Otto at the same time you were being sued?
Yes.
Okay.
So while we were fighting in court, this went on for about 2.5 months. We had started our second enhancement kit, and I can go back into the development of that. But during this whole time, we had developed Ms. Pac-Man, then named Crazy Otto, as an enhancement kit. And we had made $250,000 off of that, off of the Super Missile Attack. And Pac-Man was a much, much bigger game than Missile Command was. And we were looking and saying, this enhancement kit could sell $1 million worth or more. We were very excited by what the enhancement kit could do. And, you know, maybe we're being piggy. We're signing a $1.2 million contract with ATARI. But we were also going, we're 3/4 of the way done now with the development of the enhancement kit for Pac-Man. Let's at least see if we can carve that out from the ATARI agreement by getting permission, and then see if we can get permission from Bally Midway to sell the enhancement kit.
Yeah. And so you ended up approaching Bally Midway, telling them that you won a lawsuit against ATARI. And
correct. So we flew out and bluffed our way. And, you know, here we thought we were being very, very clever 22-year-olds or 21-year-olds bluffing our way in this major corporation, Bally Midway. We show up and say, we just beat ATARI in court. They had read the final court documents and saw that ATARI dropped it with prejudice, as we had required. And we said, here is our enhancement kit to Pac-Man. It's called Crazy Otto, and that we would like to start selling it. And we could sue you immediately for declaratory judgment like we did with ATARI, but that would be a waste of everybody's time. How about we just get permission from guys to knowing that we had to get permission? Now, this is where I said we were young kids bluffing our way through. The other side of it probably was paying no attention to our bluff. They had just run the largest production ever in North America of arcade game in Pac-Man, and had just shut down the production line. They had produced 110,000 Pac-Mans or whatever the number was in North America, and had just shut down the production line, and were getting ready to pink slip many of the employees because they did not have a follow-on game, much less a sequel to Pac-Man.
Sure.
And we walk in and say, hey, here's version 2 of Pac-Man. We didn't say it that way, but that's what they're thinking. So while we are bluffing our way through with Bally Midway, I think they're looking, going, wow, I think you just saved our butts, that we could turn this into the sequel for Pac-Man and keep this going, this franchise going, which was about to come to an end. Somehow Pac-Man had done extremely well, and yet no one had stepped up and created a sequel to it.
And they were waiting for Namco to produce one.
Eventually they all did. Namco did one, Bally did one, Midway did one, and we did one, all following Ms. Pac-Man. But when Ms. Pac-Man was coming out, there was no sequels in the pipeline, and kind of ashamed of Pac-Man being such a hit and nothing to follow it up.
Yeah.
So we were right place, right time, and started working with Bally Midway to bring what was Crazy Otto, the name of the enhancement kit, into production as what turned out eventually to be Ms. Pac-Man, though it had quite a few name changes in the meantime.
So who was listening to
Otto.
Who was listening to Crazy Otto, the German pianist that wanted? I mean, is that how it ended up getting the name, or?
I don't remember how it got its name. Just a minute.
We got him so choked up. He's so choked up talking about this.
I don't remember where Crazy Otto got its name. Did Steve remember that, or?
I don't remember. I know that there's a German pianist, Fritz Schultz Reichel or something, that's named Crazy Otto. I actually bought a record so I could hang it next to my Miss Pac-Man machine that says Crazy Otto on it, but that's neither here nor there. So you
No, I don't think I'm cultural enough to have named it after him.
That's pretty cool. So you have these enhancement kits. You work with Bally Midway. That story's all told on High Score. Steve talked about that a little bit. One thing I wanted to touch on, because we did invite the 6502 group from Facebook to come and watch tonight, as well as Atari Age. You did have some you did have some involvement with the Atari 7800. Could you talk a little bit about your involvement with the hardware?
Sure. So I left off the story where we picked up this development contract with Atari, and I think we misunderstood it, that we thought we were supposed to develop games, and Atari thought we were supposed to go sit on the beach. But we immediately started hiring engineers, and we were in Cambridge, right next to MIT. And in the year 1982, I think, we became the largest recruiter out of MIT, passing IBM and Hewlett-Packard and Microsoft, I guess at the time, the three big ones. Because we said, hey, you can come and work on video games, you get paid really well, and you don't even have to move out of your fraternity. You can just walk to it. We're right around the corner. And so we hired lots of engineers because we had this development contract, and we thought that's what we were supposed to be doing. And we had a ball doing it as we started designing the video games. So fast forward, we designed I think 4 arcade games that went to market with Atari. We also did Junior Pac-Man, which went the way of Bally Midway, and then several arcade games that did not make it to market. But we found our real soft spot in what we could do was to start doing the 2600 cartridges and the consumer market. So we quickly dove in and started building or designing 2600 cartridges for Atari, and then wanted to work on the next generation platform. The 5200 had been rolled out without a lot of success. It was kind of a conversion of the 400, 800 into a game system. And we wanted to do the next generation. So we had quite a few hardware engineers at our company. We started designing our own custom VLSI chip at the center of it called Maria. And I believe 18 different titles to come out with the game system when it shipped. We also had a high score cart. We had a keyboard and other things we were playing with as we did it. A whole science lab for kids and other stuff. But it was a massive project where we probably had 50 or 60 engineers on it. My role on the 7800 was twofold. One is I got involved in writing the cartridge that was planned to ship with it, showing off its graphics, which was a 3D asteroids, where we had the actual asteroids rotating in space, so it looked 3D-ish. It was nicknamed in our lab Meatballs in Space because that's more what it looked like. But so I worked on asteroids with Mike Horowitz, who I did Ms. Pac-Man with, and Josh Littlefield. And we were doing it alongside of the hardware getting designed. So this was kind of the test cartridge. Did the hardware do what we needed to do? Did the software? And we were kind of writing the manual for everybody else. But I also got involved in the boot code for the 7800. We had this difficult issue that we couldn't resolve. The 7800 had backwards compatibility to the 2600, which was very key in marketing. And we were very insistent that it could play all 2600 cartridges. And at one point, we were going to drop the TIA, the chip that was inside of the 2600, onto our chip. That did not work out well. So we just put a TIA chip on the board next to our chip, our graphics processor, which ran the 7800, called the Maria, the Tia Maria combination, which is our really stupid pun. But the problem we had is that Maria booted up and had a clock that ran 3 times faster. And if the TIA booted up in a different clock cycle, which happens 2/3 of the time, things would not work properly. And we were trying to figure out in hardware how to solve all that, how to have the clock synchronized and all that. And I'm not a hardware person. And instead I said, oh, well, when I write code and it comes up the wrong way, I can notice that the 2600 part of it, the TIA, if I draw 2 missiles, they sometimes will collide and hit the collision detector if they're in the wrong cycle. And they go, well, that's neat, but what do you do about it? I go, geez, you can't change the clock. I go, yeah, I can just reboot once that happens. And hopefully the next time or the time after that, it will come up on the right phase and everything works. So as part of the 7800, there's code right at the very beginning, which tries drawing stuff with TIA, looking to see if there's a problem. And if there's a problem, just reboots and does it again. And so it might get it right first time, it might get it right the 15th time, but eventually it boots up and everything works well.
That's
nice.
awesome.
You know, there's actually Cold Fusion, which is a web application software, does exactly the exact same thing you just described. If it tries to compile some code and it has a problem, it will actually reboot itself and try to compile it again, and then it'll get it right. So
that's funny.
That pattern is applicable everywhere, but that's fascinating. There was never a chance that it would be rebooting like 50 times, though, right? There was always like a statistical average or something.
Well, statistically, maybe it did it 50 times, but so what? It's doing that in
milliseconds.
So,
yeah.
Not a big deal.
That's funny. So let's talk about a couple of the games you made.
Sure.
So Asteroids for the Atari 2600.
Asteroids for the 7800.
Oh, 7800. Okay.
Meatballs
in
space.
Nice.
Meatballs in space. We're trying to show off the fact that we could have
texture,
30, 40 rotating sprites or stamps on the screen at one time. We said, this is the perfect game for it. And so we made a very colorful, graphical Asteroids. It played very well.
That's good.
And then hardware engineers were always targeting the hardware to make sure we could play Robotron. That was what they said.
Oh.
The test of whether it would work or not. And so Robotron was the game that the hardware was being designed for.
That's interesting. Especially since that wasn't an Atari game.
True.
Yeah.
But was one of the favorite of Tom Westberg's, and Tom was the head of the VLSI design. So
yeah,
Robotron was the test case.
Howard Scott Warshaw told us that game was on site at Atari and people played it.
Oh, yeah.
So that's kind of fun.
God, I can't believe I don't own a Robotron. I don't know what's happening.
I have one. It's tucked away.
Shut up.
There will be one in Starcade.
I'll come down there.
So Brendan Parker just asked a question. There was a list of games that you had mentioned that didn't release. Can you tell us something about some of those?
Well, on the 2600, there was only one game I think that we worked on that did not release, and it was Millipede. We did Centipede. I did that working with Mike Horowitz and Josh Littlefield, and it came out really well.
That's an awesome port. I love that version. There's Missile Command and Centipede are done so well on the Atari 2600.
And so we had spent a lot of time really pushing how the hardware worked to get Centipede to work properly on the 2600 as well as we could. If people have never understood what's behind the 2600, basically you can have two sprites, two little dots, and a background at any given time, but the at any given time means on a scan line. And then you can replicate each of those sprites up to 3 times, so you can get 6 of them. So picture kind of Space Invaders, you get 6 things across. We played with it a lot, and Atari was doing the same thing at the time, starting to say, well, if you get really, really clever in your programming, you can cause this sprite to reappear at different places by writing while the beam is going across the screen. And it got nicknamed later Racing the Beam. So to create Centipede without having it flicker too much, we were doing a lot of really hand coding of the portion of the game or the portion of the code that handled the on-screen drawing, and was able to get the flicker way down and get the game quite playable. Then immediately after that, Atari had already put out the arcade version of Millipede. We started on the Millipede game and took a lot of our code from the initial Centipede. We had not been given permission yet to go ahead with it by Atari, but knew that they were going to need a Millipede game. And whenever Atari Marketing eventually got around to assigning a team to it, it was already way too late in the schedule. They would give the assignment and say, we need it in 2.5 months or whatever. So we figured we'd get a head start on it. We told Atari we were doing it. But at the same time, there were political issues inside of Atari that we were getting all the good games because we had a bigger, faster team to work on them, partly because we were starting before they were even assigned to us. And Atari was an internal, Millipede was another internal Atari game.
Yeah.
And so they wanted the Atari engineers to have a chance at programming it.
Okay.
And so a parallel development started on the 2600 Millipede inside of Atari. Marketing was well aware both sides were doing it and smiling, going, we can't lose.
Yeah, right.
One will get to market and they'll probably push themselves. And quite honestly, we both teams pushed ourselves really, really hard and ended up with 2 very good versions of Millipede. We believed ours was better. We got called by a top person at Atari who said, yes, we're going to use the one designed in California. The team needs a boost. We did not take it too well, but moved on. And so the GCC Millipede got shelved and never made it to market.
Oh.
Were there any other arcade games specific besides Pac-Man and Missile Command that maybe you started to look at it for like 5 minutes and then you were like, yeah, we're not going to do this. This isn't going to work. Or was it always Missile Command and was it always Pac-Man?
In terms of enhancement kits?
Correct.
I think we looked at a few. We tried, we did some reverse engineering of the original Asteroids, and we're working on an enhancement kit to Asteroids. We just had problems really viewing how to make it different. So we only played with that for a little while. Part of the reason we played with that was that it was also 6502 based, as was Missile Command, and we had the emulator. Just backing up, when we, during our spring break senior year, decided to start working on Super Missile Attack, we had to buy an in-circuit emulator from a company called Genrad. It sold for $25,000. I had to borrow the money off my mother, that all the quarters we had earned went to pay my tuition, which never got me a degree. But so we borrowed $25,000 off my mother to start the Super Missile, to create the Super Missile Attack. And when we finished that and started shipping it, we wanted to do the next enhancement. Asteroids fit very nicely because it was 6502 also, and we already had an emulator for that. But Pac-Man eventually won out because it was selling so big. It was hot then, as Asteroids was already a little bit old. And we had to buy another in-circuit emulator for another $25,000.
Oh.
Tektronix, so we could do Pac-Man.
Oh my God.
But I look back and say, I believe we made the right choice.
Yeah.
Right place, right time, some dumb luck, some good programming, some aggressive business moves, and everything came together.
That's great. Brian, you have a Quantum you might want to talk about.
Yeah, so you were talking about this a little bit before the show, before we went on air, but give us a little bit of the story behind Quantum. I know that's one of the games that you worked on.
Okay, so the when we signed the contract with Atari, it was to develop arcade games only. That's what we were originally doing, and eventually we started doing the cartridges, the home cartridges also. But we started the development of several games shortly after we signed the agreement and started hiring the engineers. Food Fight was one of them. Quantum was the second one. Junior Pac-Man got started on pretty early, realizing that shortly after Miss Pac-Man started selling, saying, well, if the second sequel did well, why not do a third? And so we got started on that quite early. But Quantum was a fun one. I started work on that with Betty Tilko. She did most of the engineering on it because I was jumping back and forth between several projects, and Art Ing did the hardware on it. And we were bringing up the hardware and the software at the same time. At the time, the hardware had an issue that we viewed as a hardware issue, the hardware engineers viewed it as a software issue. If you were to draw a beam off the screen way too far, it would have problems. It would blow its fuse. These fortunately on the board were these really nice tubular fuses that cars use and everything else. And our software, Betty's and my software, kept making mistakes every now and then and drawing off the screen and blowing out the fuse. So the way we fixed it, as any good software engineer would do, is we just bought a big box of fuses.
Oh my
God! Every time we ran and something ran off the screen, it blew a fuse. We popped it, put another one in. But we were very respectful of the hardware. We did not jam a penny in there or anything. We just let it keep on blowing out the fuses. And so we had this big bin sitting next to the development station of all these burnt out fuses. But
you had to have thought that can't be us blowing a fuse when you're writing the software, right?
Oh, we knew it was us, but we kind of thought the hardware should be more tolerant.
Yeah,
of,
really.
Us bad software programmers.
How does it spike the voltage so high that it blows a fuse? That's crazy.
Brian may be able to explain that better than I can.
Maybe you can talk about how the Tempest Attract sequence is like super harmful to the monitor.
Oh yeah.
Well, the person actually, he disappeared from the chat that could probably explain it the best is Arcade Jason. I saw was hanging out earlier.
Yeah.
Right.
What was the I mean, Quantum's kind of a weird game. I mean, I like it. And
Yeah.
a lot of people that come over really enjoy it because it's different.
Mm-hmm.
There were very few cabinets made, but what was the idea behind that? Who was sitting around going, let's take a trackball and circle atoms
Stuff.
in vector?
Well, it started off almost entirely Betty Tilko's creation. She was working with Art. Art was doing the hardware, and we were doing our first vector hardware, and Betty had it hooked up to a trackball, and to kind of test the vector hardware, just said, okay, I'm going to write the first bit of code, which is just going to kind of be an Etch-a-Sketch. And so you move the trackball around and you can draw things. And she got really good. She could write her name really fast. She could draw perfect circles. You know, it wasn't as bad as an Etch-a-Sketch where you have to work two knobs.
Right.
With a trackball, you could do amazing things. So she goes, watch this, draw a circle. And then, she'd write her name and whatever. We go, that's really cool. And she goes, okay, so we have to do a game where basically you're just scribbling on the screen. And she started trying to just write things and circle things and whatever. And Quantum kind of got born out of that. I don't know how early on the actual tie-in with quantum physics and all the quarks and everything else that went into the game when that came. But it was a game where basically to do something, you're going to just try circling it. And that's where the gameplay started off.
I find the game really hard. I hate when I set the highest score because my handwriting is terrible as it is. When you have me write my name with a trackball, it looks like a tweet.
Brand that.
Yeah, it's just. Yeah. And I've heard people say like they love the game because when you do set the high score, they get to write really inappropriate things or draw really inappropriate things.
Yeah.
Which is also kind of funny. I mean, but it is really the execution of that game, the colors on that game, the use of the vector monitor, like that. It really is it's a beautiful game. Like it's fun to watch. Like you're playing it and you're watching it, and it's really kind of a pleasure to watch what's happening on the screen. I'm terrible at it, and I still enjoy like playing it just because I'm watching this stuff happen, and it's you're making pretty shapes, and that combination of the vector hardware with the trackball really, I think was genius.
Yeah.
Well, it was gorgeous, and as you said, it was such a natural motion to take the trackball and just draw circles and lines. Turning it into gameplay, I think it worked well, but not really well. It, as you were saying, is more gorgeous than a great gameplay.
Yeah, it's hard, and there are people who come over that love it, and there's people that play it and they just quickly move on to other things. But I think and I think part of the problem is it's hard. I mean, it is a really hard game to be good at.
Yep. And yet I do watch some people that are really good at it, and it is just amazing. But that's true with almost every video game where you watch an expert at it and you go, okay, I can't do that. I can't even get close to that.
Mr. Peabody did have a question, and it's a bit of a joke that's been running out throughout our seasons, Doug. So I apologize, but
oh no.
No.
He did want to know if an enhancement kit could be done for Exterminator.
Which he doesn't even know about. Nobody should know about that game, and this is the new season, and I'm going to start booting people who talk about Exterminator.
So I have an Exterminator in my basement. Adam's least favorite game. It comes up every show. So.
Not this season, it's not going to.
Yeah, you just try and stop it. You already tried to get rid of gadgets. We're taking those back.
I can stop it. I know how to stop it.
So, I actually, and I didn't realize this until going through some of the, but how did you guys come up with the sprites? Like, how would you evaluate different sprites, or how would you decide what they were going to look like? Because you went through and did a lot of modifications to games. So, like, you know, coming up with what they'd look like. Did you have an artist? What was your execution of that?
It depends when you're asking. So when we did Ms. Pac-Man and originally Crazy Otto,
right.
Our sprite design system was graph paper and a light bright.
Oh yeah!
If you remember light brights as a kid. The problem with the light bright was the pattern of the holes is hexagonal.
Yeah.
They're not on a perfect grid, so you had to do every other hole and whatever. But some of Ms. Pac-Man was tested out on light bright. Some of it was done on graph paper. And Steve Golson still has some of the original graph paper sketches of when we were working on them and trying to make the designs. They were not done by an artist. They were done by Mike Horowitz, one of the programmers,
That's cool.
to determine what it looks like. And he kept on coming back and going, okay, I just put a red dot on. Now she has lipstick. Go, that's a red dot. No, it's lipstick.
Yeah. Good enough.
Every day, you know, it ended up looking different. You know, Ms. Pac-Man at one point had red hair, long red hair coming off, almost a full mane. And that's the way it was until the ROMs were showed to the president of Namco over in Japan. And we just got I think it was a fax back to Midway, who sent it back to us, which said no red hair. And so
no gingers.
Lost their hair and got a bow instead.
Smart.
But we only had 3 colors to work with. We had yellow, blue, and red. So no red hair. We're not going to go blue hair, so no hair. A bow instead.
She got a mole, a beauty mark.
Yep. But eventually, when we were designing sprites, we developed a sprite development system that was just on a computer, which we had 3 artists in-house that were designing them. And doing an 8x8 pixel or 16x16 pixel is quite an art form to get them looking good and then moving and whatever. And so some of the engineers worked on developing the system to develop each of the sprites.
Well, Crazy Otto had like 16 different positions for the main character. And when you reduce those, well, first of all, you don't have legs on them, so that makes it easy. Because you just need to turn the character then, right? You don't have to animate the legs. So, I mean, there must have been some design considerations that while you were making it, you almost overcomplicated it and then had to peel it back even a little bit.
Yeah, we did overcomplicate it. We were right in, as we were designing it, we were right in the middle of our lawsuit with ATARI and learning from that what claims against an enhancement kit would be.
Yeah.
And so we were trying to do some of this, do some of the changes to prevent the misrepresentation of origin, trademark dilution issues that we're facing in court. And so, for example, the Crazy Otto monsters were a lot cuter than the Pac-Man monsters.
Yeah,
they had fuzzy antennas and whatever. And we just wanted them to look different. And that was all part of the ATARI suit that was causing us to go those directions.
It's interesting, though. Crazy Otto actually looks more like the Pac-Man side art than the original Pac-Man did. You know, so Bally Midway had this blob with legs, with red eyes, and you guys made a blob with legs with blue eyes.
Yeah.
Was that on purpose? You were trying to copy the side art character, Or
I don't know.
Subliminal.
I listened to that question 2 years ago when you asked Steve that, and I had never even paid that much attention to the fact that Crazy Otto looked like the side art.
Isn't that funny?
It obviously does. I don't know if we did it consciously, subconsciously, or whether Mike Horowitz would claim that he never even saw the side. I don't know.
Well, it's funny too because I don't even remember asking Steve that question, but I know I did. So, Mark, we are past the top of the hour, and listeners, thanks for sticking with us. We have we normally put all the names into the hat. My equipment is in flux here, so we're going to do it a little differently tonight. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm counting 10. 11 names. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There's 11 names in the in the hopper tonight. Yes. So Doug, pick a number between 1 and 11, and they're gonna win one of the coins that you showed us tonight.
One of these coins.
Yeah. And first, tell us about the coin, because we need to know more about it.
Well, in geocaching, people often mint coins, and there are two different types. One has a unique serial number on each coin that you can actually track as it moves from cache to cache.
Oh, cool.
So I might place it in a cache, and the next person takes it and drops it off in New Mexico. Then it gets found by someone from Germany who takes it back, and then it ends up in France. And you can look at it move about. And then there's a smaller version called a path tag. And the path tag is more of a collectible. And people have huge collections because many geocachers kind of just use this as their calling card. So the path tag is the smaller one in this case.
Okay.
And the geocoin is the bigger one.
Nice. So we'll give away a path tag then. How's that?
Okay, well, no, I think we should do what Oprah would do.
Okay.
Path tag for everybody. Give me all the names. Everybody's a winner.
11
oh my gosh.
Winners?
That we can do that. We will.
Okay.
That is fantastic.
Address and everything.
Yeah, I'll export it and send it to you within the next 24 hours.
And I'll mail out a path tag to everyone.
That is fantastic.
Awesome.
Thank you so
That's
much.
wonderful.
Doug is the new Oprah.
There we go.
That is.
You get a coin. You get a coin.
You get a coin. And if you look under your seats right now, there's no coin, but there will be one.
Shortly.
Andrew Baldwin submitted just now like a quickie, so now there's 12 people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're cutting it off.
Cutting it off. I'm going into the form and disabling.
Doug's going to be busy with mail. Well, anything we can do to help out would be great. That is a fantastic gift that you just gave. So I think we've covered quite a bit tonight. I would love to keep talking to you, and I have a whole bunch of questions. Like when the Nintendo showed up at ATARI, did you get to see it? And were you part of that whole 7800? Like we just got to keep them on the line so that they can't sell this thing in America. Or I have all kinds of questions about. We can't answer tonight. But
the very quick 2 cents on that is no, I did not even know that ATARI was talking with Nintendo.
Yeah.
I did fly over Japan and look at the Nintendo system and kind of gave my feedback to ATARI management on
That's
it,
cool.
and did a comparison of it versus the 7800.
Yeah.
And I personally felt that the 7800 would crush it.
Yeah.
And had it not been for the whole timing with Jack Trammell and whatever, we might not have ever had the NES here in the United States, but it would have been all Atari 7800. But that's a different story.
It is a different story. And I mean, and it's a really fun story. It's really interesting. This little company called GCC that you started with your friends. How many little things you've touched over the years? How many pieces of the arcade industry and home console industry you've influenced? And
how many people went on dates and they played Miss Pac-Man and then got married and then had 20 children? Who knows?
Right? I mean,
right.
It's probably true. I mean, And to be part of the team that developed one of the top 5 grossing arcade games of all time, you got to be pretty proud of it, right?
Well, we don't talk worldwide. We just say for the Western Hemisphere or for North America, we're the largest grossing game of all times.
Nice. That's sweet. Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
So, do you have any parting advice for our listeners tonight?
No.
About life?
No words of wisdom?
Panic?
Go for it.
Make sure you get a good vanity plate, you know.
I had a good vanity plate down in Florida. It was Pac-Man on my Tesla X. Moved to Boston right at the start of the pandemic. We drove up, and then I went to apply for a vanity plate in Massachusetts. One problem, they have a restriction on only 6. We only have 6 letters on Massachusetts driving or license plates. And second during the pandemic, they are not issuing vanity plates. I have some random plate on my car right now.
Oh, that's got to be frustrating.
Hey, and speaking of Tesla, and just on the last question, are you interested in the Cybertruck or no?
No.
No.
I've owned my wife and I. We've owned an X, a 3, and we both now have Ys, and very much like those.
Okay.
The one,
and I do have a Roadster on order.
Oh, cool.
The one interesting tidbit I heard about the truck was if you bought $10,000 in Tesla stock the day they announced it, by the time that they are shipping it, this was like 2 months ago. They aren't shipping it, obviously. You would have been able to pay for the truck in full and the taxes on the money that you made.
No way.
Yeah, that makes sense.
This is one of the reasons I have a Roadster on order. I'm a very large Tesla shareholder.
Okay. As a good investor.
Yes.
Do you need any more sons?
I have 2 sons, one at Palantir and one at Google. So,
wow. Yeah, not at Google, that's for sure. But, this guy's smart. So, hey, is MIT going to give you did they posthumously?
Still alive.
Do
How
you
come I
mean
can't
when
say
I die?
that?
He hasn't
Yeah,
died
that's
yet.
after he dies.
You mean honorary, maybe?
Yeah, it's an honorary. Did you get an honorary degree?
MIT has never given out an honorary degree in their history.
We should maybe.
Let's start.
Though I have received an honorary degree.
Good.
It's from my high school.
Oh, cool.
So I have 2 high school degrees.
It's nice of them to give you 2 just in case the first one fails.
There you go.
Okay, I'm on the phone tomorrow morning.
You're just like, this is Bob Zarsdick.
Hey, what's going on?
Oh, no, we just gave it away. 5th season.
I'm just doing an impression. What are you
That's
talking
true.
about?
You're pretty good at that impression.
Raphael Reif. He is the 17th president of MIT. I will be talking to him in the morning. I'll be like, hey, man, what's up, man?
Doug, Doug's, again, thanks for being on the show. Honored to have you on the show. Stick with us after the outro, and we'll, we like to say goodbye off the air and,
give you our
group hugs and such.
Very good.
All right, so hang on and let's get this sad outro. Hey, and everybody, thanks for tuning in. Season premiere, 5 years now. We're going to our 5th year, so this is a lot of fun. Thanks for being with us tonight, and I think it's time for us to wrap up the double R's. This has been Arcade Radio.
Hey, don't forget to check out Old School Gamer Magazine. You can pick up a subscription at www.oldschoolgamermagazine.com.
Oh, yeah, that's me. Check out our website at arcaderadio.com. That's where you can, sign up for all our stuff, and you can actually watch old videos and stuff. So check it out.
Call and leave comments at 612-548-GAME. That's 4263 in case you can't spell game.
Enjoying the show? Pick up some Arcade Radio swag over at teespring.com/arcaderadio. That's RcadeRadio. Or consider supporting our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/arcaderadio. Multiple tiers starting at just $3 a month. Every little bit helps with running the show.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel, which you're listening right now. Click that notification bell so you will know when we are streaming live or have accidentally started streaming live.
If you like what you're hearing, consider dropping a 5-star review somewhere where you listen to podcasts. That'd be great.
And that's it for the show, and it's a brand new season. So hopefully gadgets will be a little bit more respected this year. That's it for the Arcade Radio team. We hope you enjoyed the show. We had a blast, and we want to thank Doug for joining us.